Welcome to the fourth season of the Insights Career Club podcast. Hey, I'm Sindy Thomas, your career strategist and coach, bringing you career advice and tips from me and experts on different careers. We were recognized and honored by FeedSpot as one of the top 20 job search podcasts. And we're here to help you build a meaningful career. Stay tuned. Up next is a fantastic podcast. Hey there, insiders. It's Sindy Thomas, your career insider. Do you remember that commercial a few years back with the tagline that said, "The most interesting man in the world"? Well, that would be a good description of this week's guest. By the time he was 12, he had eaten dinner in the White House 3 times. He's been the chairman of the Missouri Public Service Commission, a Missouri state senator. He served in Missouri's House of Representatives. He's appeared on Dr. Phil and other national TV shows, and recently released a new book called I Quit, Winning the War for Top Talent. His name is Scott Rupp. Now he's devoting his efforts to inspire and help audiences to understand their why and determine the sustainability of their actions. He provides company leaders the needed tools to consistently meet their workforce needs. Here he is. Let's welcome him into the show. Scott, welcome into the Insiders Career Club podcast. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Great. Just gearing up for the holiday. Well, let's get into it because I don't want to run out of time. Share a little bit about your career path that led you here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Kind of had a weird career path like everybody. You just never know where life's going to take you. Started out small business owner, had several businesses, built them up, sold them off to follow my passion, which was politics. I had the bug since I was a small boy and got into the elected office. I was the youngest state senator in Missouri's history when I was elected. Yeah, I did 2 terms in the Missouri House and 2 terms in the Missouri Senate. And at the age of 41, I was the most senior member of the Missouri State Senate at that time. So it was kind of an odd thing. Ran for Secretary of State in the state of Missouri and lost by 0.7%. And I am so thankful for those 0.7% that did not elect me. I thank them every day in my prayers because, that whole place just is toxic. And so that led me, the governor appointed me to the Missouri Public Service Commission, which now I am in charge of regulating the multi-billion-dollar utilities for the state of Missouri. So all the huge utilities that are monopolies and they're Fortune 500 companies. So I tell them what they can do on how much they can charge customers, when they can build plants and things of that nature. And then went off on my own and started a public speaking business and kind of reflecting on a lot of stuff that I've experienced in my life. And that's what led me to just release my latest book here that just came out last week on Amazon, number 1 on the new release list, called I Quit, Winning the War for Top Talent. But yeah, that's kind of been a meandering kind of how I got to be on your show here.
Wow, you've had some high-powered roles there.
I have been blessed to work with some amazing people and learn a lot from people that are smarter than me.
Well, yeah, we all have our talents, right?
That's right.
So, we talked a little bit before recording about the changes that are happening in the world of work. What do you see going on right now?
It's chaos. We had the pandemic, which was just upsetting for so many people on different reasons. And then that kind of gave us a knee-jerk reaction, which they were calling the Great Resignation. I'm kind of looking at what we're living in now is kind of like the Great Disconnect. It's the modern worker is looking for something very different than what a lot of their predecessors, the older generations, maybe their parents were looking for. There's a big disconnect between upper management and C-suite of what they think their employees want to what actually all the data says employees are currently seeking, much more of a life of significance. So there's a real big disconnect going on right now between labor and management. And you're kind of seeing it all over the place with still a lot of job vacancies, people really struggling to get some top talent in. And then, the rise of the unions is really having a resurgence and strikes. So Yeah, I think there's a big disconnect going on right now between labor and management.
Very true. We had that auto worker strike, and a big deal was made about the employee having more power. Now, we did see a shift of power these last years with, fewer qualified workers and employers wanting to hire those people. And so the worker has enjoyed being in the decision-making seat for a year and a half, 2 years or so. So that's going on. I think it's still going on to a certain degree, but I think employers have pulled back with with not just offering everything but the kitchen sink to get people on board. So that is what I see happening. I think the changes that are current in the workplace with the generational differences are that the newer worker is looking to have significance in their life as a whole and work be part of that. So that is a change that we have not seen. But yeah, it is pretty volatile. The most recent changes in regard to, pay transparencies and, I lost my train of thought here. Pay transparency and, I did lose my train of thought. Doggone it. Hopefully it'll come back. But there's a lot going on. Pardon me?
I said, I think you're spot on. I mean, everything you're saying is exactly what I'm seeing. And I think some of the employers I talk to, they're like, well, it's the pendulum. It swung one side and now it's going to swing back towards management. But I see a bigger change on the horizon, almost a paradigm shift that you could go back and, my dad worked for 41 years at Ozark and TWA Airlines and retired. He had a pension and everything. And you don't see that anymore because in the late 70s and 80s, there was a huge shift in the workplace, which, the invention of the 401k and work became so much more mobile. I could go here, I could go there. So for personally, my generation, I'm expected to change jobs 7 to 10 times in one lifetime. But the younger generations is, they're changing jobs every couple of years and they're not staying in the same industry. I mean, they're hopping from IT to hospitality to, conservation. They're all over the place. So, and I can see this is another kind of paradigm shift we went into, like you were saying, is that's seeking out of more significance and, reevaluating their life and saying, hey, I want my work to be kind of scheduled around my life, not my life around my work, which is, kind of very different to the massive push for productivity and stuff that we saw pre-pandemic and things like that.
Yeah. I also did see a lot about being judged on your productivity, on your work product, shifting just rather than working the 8 hours or whatever to being tied to that. And I don't know if that's going to prevail, but I know that I had managers that they wanted to see the result, right? And in recruiting, as you probably know, it's like right now, you always start off with your managers. You're behind the 8 ball because they wanted that person yesterday or last week. And very few of them were ahead of the curve with planning ahead, even though we tried, to knowing what they wanted so that we weren't always behind like that. So there's just so much going on. From recruiting, I could see a lot of changes, and I find it fascinating what's going on right now. Even with subtle changes, we had that whole remote work thing happening with the pandemic, and a lot of people that had never worked from home got the chance to do it. And we had the tools to be able to do it with Zoom and whatever else there is out there. I think Zoom was the main one. But now there are a lot of people that don't want to go back in the office full time. And there's a tension there between the worker and the employee that we want you here, but the employees don't want to be there 5 days a week. So we've got that tug of war going on. And I find that interesting as well.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I mean, I guess it was McKinsey did a massive study the year after the pandemic. Microsoft did one with 10,000 surveys, and the number 5 most biggest thing was brought up was about remote work. And I think even number 2 was that remote work was here to stay, according to Microsoft. And it's just, it's demanded. And everyone and I've talked to many CEOs are like, we're bringing people back. And every time they start to the resignation letters start flooding in, and then they pull it, and they're trying to find that balance of, hey, getting people back, but not too much to where they start losing their top people. And so they're trying to find that sweet spot. But everything I'm seeing is that the workers want it, and it's here to stay. And it's something that, really kind of expands the labor pool for a lot of people. If you're when you're trying to recruit businesses to your state, you're always talking about, oh, we have a highly educated workforce and we have this here, we have that. That actually kind of has changed just some of the recruitment side from the state standpoint, how to get businesses there, because some of the bigger selling points of, the highly educated workforce, well, they can find that anywhere and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it's really an interesting dynamic shift that we're seeing.
Yeah. And the opportunity for the worker as well. You can work anywhere. If you're working remote, you don't have to move. You don't have to uproot your life and move to Arkansas or Florida or Texas, where the jobs may be. You can stay right where you are rooted. You don't have to pull your kids out of school and work for someone virtually. And it's opened a lot of opportunities on both sides for the worker and the employer to find a more skilled and qualified worker than they might have in their local areas. So I don't know that is
what we're also seeing is that the employee is starting to feel a little more valued, because they were starting to question, why do I have to take off work because my kid needs to be run to the doctor? Why do I have to take off work to go to my kid's dance recital? And why am I driving 45 minutes one way to do the same job I can do from home? So with the ability to have some of that remoteness, the employee feels that they're being valued a little bit more, and their individual needs and their individual life is being valued. And so they're kind of reciprocating that with a little bit of loyalty to the company for that opportunity.
Yes. What do you think about the 100% remote workers missing out on promotional opportunities? What are ways that you see that they can stay top of mind with their managers and coworkers?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the difficult part, is that out of sight, out of mind. Sometimes, am I going to be forgotten, and I can't build the relationship maybe, that I would. It does take effort on both the immediate manager and the employee side to build in those. Nobody wants more meetings, but just those 5-10 minute, hey, catch ups of, hey, how are you doing? What's your workload like? And just getting that feedback, because regardless of what industry you're in the people industry. I mean, even if you're high tech or something, it's just, all businesses are made up of people, and building those relationships is key to getting people to, reach their potential and you to make them feel valued. So it does take a little bit extra effort on both ends because of the inability to constantly see each other and stuff. And I think some of the missing out is a little bit of a FOMO, which has been rising rapidly in fear of missing out rapidly, along with anxiety and imposter syndrome, which is in the younger generations. The data that's coming in, I think I saw that there was a study by a big university a couple years ago that said that about 73% of millennials suffered from imposter syndrome, which is that fear of just, I'm a fraud, or even though I have education and I have the experience and I have the knowledge, I feel like I'm an imposter because someone's going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing. And so when you see that a level of anxiety rampantly in the younger generations, plus the ones that are going to be working remotely more, most likely, that is a big concern of how much of that, I'm missing out on a promotional opportunity is feeding into some of that anxiety.
Yeah, that imposter syndrome is an interesting thing, because it ties along obviously with self-confidence and realizing too, you can't know everything. You bring to the job the skills that you have, and nobody has 100% of whatever they're asking for in a job description. And so part of your job is to use all the skills you have and then learn more, because you've got to grow in the role that you're in order to continue to be effective in your role. And so I think people are misinterpreting exactly what's expected, because you cannot know everything. Nobody knows everything. And that's an unrealistic perception on the worker's perspective. So I think people need to realize that. And there is room, obviously, for growth in whatever role you're in. And some of that is the responsibility of your manager and employer to help you grow and expand in that role. But the other part is on the employee to, if maybe that company isn't set up for learning, and advancement opportunities. They're not really investing in their people in that way. Then it becomes the responsibility of the employee to take it upon themselves to go do classes somewhere. And these days are so easy. You can do it all online. So, you make sure that you're getting that extra knowledge and learning that you need to excel in your role. And that's a real shift in the paradigm of what, work used to be, right?
Right.
You go in, it was on the job training. Now there is no on the job training per se. They kind of get you up to speed and get on out there and do the job. But I do think with the growth of AI and as quickly as it is taking over in everything, that's going to have to change. Employers are going to have to go back to helping their workforce grow and learn because they don't want to keep hiring, and it's going to be more economical and on their part to keep that employee and grow them with all the shifts that are happening. So we've got a lot going on. It's exciting though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, and the role of the manager is going to have to expand into, just becoming more in tune with the people that they're leading. Because, just on the imposter syndrome piece, I mean, you really, if you start looking into attachment theory of how people, build a relationship, build attachments, that is kind of what kind of an attachment has that employee built with that company, with that manager, and just kind of understanding the different types of attachment theories there are within the workforce to understand where people are coming. And so, you're kind of walking into, a manager is like, hey, and not only do I have to figure out how to lead people, but now I need to be understanding, okay, what are they dealing with? What is FOMO? What is imposter syndrome? And how can I help combat that in the workforce, especially remotely, so that they have an ability to have stronger relationships and bonds here, so as to negate some of that self-esteem issue.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great that you bring that up because there is a responsibility of the company, right? To bring that individual in and help them learn about the company. And they're I don't want to call it a rah-rah meeting, but there are company meetings where the employee has a chance to hear what's going on. And I think these days with information overload and just information there, period, all over the place, it's got to be part of the manager's piece to make sure in between those times that their team understands what their role is, how the department works within the company, and what their contribution is actually doing. And I think that when people understand that, whether you've taken the initiative to truly learn and talk to other people in other departments in the company, when you get a sense of what your work product does in the overall product and success of the company, that makes the difference, as well as the relationship with your manager and relationship with your team. And there are always the team building, culture building things that go on in a company that really cares about that. I've had the good fortune of working for some great companies and most of them have been small, I will say that. But I worked for a large healthcare organization and they tried to do those things where they'd have ice cream socials and, whatever else it was, Thanksgiving dinner, lunch or whatever, to make sure that people kind of came together. And I think as long as employers do those kinds of things, help their employees stay in the loop so they're not feeling so far removed with what's going on with the product and sales and marketing and all of that, and new discovery of what, is coming next. Those are the kinds of things that tie people into a company and a culture because they honestly have a line of sight and an understanding of what is going on overall. It's not just their little widget in their little compartment that they're doing. Yeah, I think that's very important.
What I think you touched on, that a lot of the ones that had the great culture, if it were smaller companies, because it's a lot easier to convey that. And the larger the company gets, it is so much more difficult because there's so many things removed from a company might have a vice president of culture and things, and they might have the best mission statement and culture of this, but the employee doesn't, it's just like a parent. Our kids learn more by watching what we do than what we say. And so a lot of times, if you have a larger companies, you'll have employees that hear about, oh, we're going to have this great culture. But if they don't see it from their immediate manager, or if they're not getting that buy-in from their immediate manager, they're going to just dismiss the message because they don't believe the messenger. So that's so difficult when you get the bigger organizations to make sure that culture message is being ingrained and actually lived out and acted, because people don't quit jobs they don't like. They quit managers they don't like.
Absolutely.
That's where you see it.
Yeah. And that's something I have always said in my work life. You may think you're working for an employer, but it's important that you understand and have a good relationship with your manager, because that's your direct experience of that employer is your manager. And, when you're interviewing, you need to make sure that you and that manager align, that they're someone that you think you can work with, and someone who comes from the same place idealistically that you do, or have the same ideology. You really have to be careful, because the company can be great, but then you come in and you find this manager you just don't match up. So you got to be very careful with, I'm going to go work for Microsoft, but if your direct manager isn't a good manager, or you just don't align with them, that's not going to work for you.
True. Man, I'm a big believer in behavioral analytics. The more you know about the people you're hiring, the more you know about the people that you're building teams with. You can predict behaviors. You can kind of predict results, not always, but you have a pretty good idea. And so giving the managers those tools in which that they can build that team, or they can be like, hey, I understand this person, because not everybody wants to be led the same way. And using that behavioral analytics to your advantage, it just helps you build better teams. It gets a more of a cohesive. That's where people get that buy-in of, yeah, I believe in what I'm doing because I'm seeing it, and we're working together, we're gelling, and it's huge. And again, smaller companies, they maybe don't have to do that as much because they kind of have more interaction, but the bigger they get, you need to use those tools that are available.
Absolutely. That's why once I found that sweet spot, I did not want to work for a larger company.
Yeah, right.
It didn't work for me. Yeah. Let's talk about some other stuff. Let's discuss some of the challenges that leaders face in trying to navigate the current landscape of work, because it is, I don't want to say volatile in a bad sense. It's just brimming with change, and so much is happening so quickly that as a leader, you've got to have a handle on it.
Exactly. And I mean, again, the best thing for leaders and managers is you've got to get to know your people. And, I know Bob and his wife is Marjorie and they have 2 kids. No, you got to go way past that. You need to understand, what is that employee's language of appreciation? I mean, how do they want to be appreciated? I've seen so many people, hey, we're getting everybody in the break room and we're going to sing something and get a cake. And the poor person they're honoring is an introvert that just, went home in tears saying, you wouldn't believe what they did to me today. And you got to understand, how do these people want to be appreciated? And I always point people to Gary Chapman's, 5 Love Languages book. I don't know if you've ever read that, but it's an amazing book it's an amazing book on teaching you, if you have your spouse or significant other, of how people want to get love and how they want to receive love. And then he followed up that book with the 5 languages of appreciation in the workforce. And it's the same concept, but once you understand that, like for example, my wife, she loves words of affirmation. She loves to hear those types of things. I have employees that they want to hear that. They want to hear the good jobs and, that's in things. I came from the world of politics, and words mean crap to me because I've been lied to so many times and backstabs. So you can sit there and say, hey, Scott, you're doing a great job. And I'm like, whatever. But I need an action. I need to see you do something for me. So for my wife, she needed to show me by little things instead of telling me. And at work, my supervisors, and if they were to just do something like, hey, I see you're stressed. Hey, can I take these files down to HR? That meant so much more. So understanding what each person on your team needs, and then it helps you just deliver praise and things to where it just really hits home rather than just being dismissed like I would dismiss words.
Okay. And how would you advise, because there may be managers in companies that are also not really giving them tools and not trying to, come across with a management training program to help you get in sync with some of this. How would you advise a manager to grow themselves?
Well, I mean, the number one thing I always tell managers and leaders, that my leadership game changed the most when I did one thing, and I quit trying to be the most interesting person in the room, but instead I tried to become the most interested person in the room. And I used to walk in, this is the politics of me. I'd walk in, oh, I need to talk to that person. Oh, I need to network this and go to their person. Oh, look what I'm doing. Look how great I am. And as soon as I quit trying to impress people and I just opened up and said, hey, and started asking questions about other people. How are you? What's going on in you? And I became more interested, then that was the game changer on the relationship that I could build, the trust I could build, the people that actually felt that I had their best interest. And, I'll get an opportunity to shine later, but just quit trying to be interesting or look how great I am. Open up and be interested in other people. And then they'll tell you, they'll talk to you, they'll tell you what you need. Back on the anxiety piece, it just made me think of it. There was a huge study by the Mental Health Association in the U.S. that all employers, it was something like 2/3 of employees did not feel comfortable talking to their manager about, something like stress or anxiety because they thought they'd be viewed as weak. So if your employee can't even come to you and say, hey, I'm struggling with this project, or I'm struggling to hit this deadline because I can't manage these two projects. If they can't even come to you because they think how you're going to view them as weak or not a good employee, man, you have not built that level of trust. So quit being, just open up to them and allow them to be vulnerable, and you'll be able to help them so much more.
Yeah. Yeah, then you got to create that environment where people do feel comfortable. You can say, oh, yeah, I have an open door policy. But if people come in and then they feel like they get penalized for it, that's
right.
Yeah, that's not going to happen again.
Exactly. Or I have an open door policy, which is kind of an invitation to, hey, come distract me all day long. And our human brains, it takes us almost 20 minutes to refocus on a task once we have been to the level of focus we had once we've been interrupted. So it's like you have an open door policy, but it's like it doesn't have to be open 24/7. So if you're in a deadline, you're trying to hit something, it's okay, manager, close the door and say, because you don't want someone coming in that's upset with something and you're stressed and you're snapping at them. So set certain times or have ways of which you can get your work done so that when you are open to communicating with your people, that you truly are invested in them and you're not just taking a moment away from whatever project you were working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Managers are allowed to say, no, I have to do this. I've got to prepare for this meeting, or I have a deadline, a report I got to get to my manager. It goes both ways. So yeah, exactly. Let's talk about some of the changes that you see for the future of work. What do you see?
Well, you touched on it earlier. The whole AI thing is what I view it as creative destruction, and we're watching it again. We've been seeing it more and more. Creative destruction is basically in capitalism when you have a new technology comes in, it just completely disrupts the whole industry, and then it levels back out. I mean, you go back to the automobile and the horse and buggy, and people fought it. They were trying to protect the stagecoaches and everything, and the manufacturers and the footmen. And then you saw it in telecommunications with the cell phone and what that did with companies like Polaroid with the camera. And you saw it with the internet. We're seeing it again. And so it is going to be a disruption for a lot of people. I am not a doomsday, everything's going to be worse. It's just another technological advance that's going to creatively disrupt things. But for some people, it's upsetting the apple cart, and it's going to make the nature of their job and roles change. And so you're going to have to pay attention to it. You can't ignore it. It's not a fad. It is here. And so how can you harness it? How can you help your employees harness it and stuff? So that's like the kind of the bigger thing long-term once we kind of get through this great disconnect. But that is the destructive force I'm kind of seeing is a game changer.
Yeah, there AI too. I've been paying very close attention to it because it is going to be a game changer. And I don't know if you saw the study by the World Economic Forum. They do one every year. And their predictions are that there is going to be a truly just implosion in the workplace in the next 5 years with regard to how work is done. And that the client-facing jobs or customer-facing jobs will be the ones that are affected the most, but that everyone will have a certain level of disruption, as you were saying, with regard to AI. But there are some jobs that will go away. And when people hear that, they tense up, especially the individuals that may not be college educated. They maybe just have a high school education. But the thing is that there will be new jobs created.
True.
And that's a great thing. And people will have to reskill. Even the ones that are educated will have to reskill, especially in technology, because it changes so quickly. But there will be lots of opportunities there. But there will be opportunities for people to go back to school and get some training. And the good thing is most people are computer savvy now. So that's a plus on their side that they can use those skills to learn more, to find a new job and reset themselves in the workforce. What else did I see? Do I remember from that study?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also seeing, just looking at the building trades and the manufacturing pieces and the clamoring and the rise of pay that they are having for somebody that maybe doesn't want to go the college route. And so I see those continually being more elevated in pay and demand. And then you're going to have to look at a retooling, re-education type. But I think the building trades are going to have a strong run because of, you're seeing the demand in them right now. And with a lot of those jobs being replaced by AI on the tech side, there's going to be parents now that are going to be looking, saying, hey, wow, you can make a great income going to the trade school. Why go into debt in college with this few workforce on the technical side is in flux. But man, look at how much money you can make starting right out of school by learning a trade, which is almost like the antithesis of 30 years ago of parents saying, well, the only way you can succeed is you have to go to college. So I think AI is going to also disrupt so many other sectors, the kind of an offset of that, of where emphasis is being put in the labor market. And I think the building trades and those skilled tradesmen and women are going to have a resurgence.
I think that's very true. And I do think that just outside of the skills, the trades, that employers, because of this worker shortage and because of the changes that are going to happen in the workforce, that they will be more inclined to not just look for a degree, they will look for the skills and open themselves up to a wider workforce, that maybe somebody that does not have a college degree, but they're really technologically savvy and they learn some of these new skills that are going to be in demand. They'll get hired for jobs that they wouldn't have been looked at maybe 5-10 years ago. So that's another change that's on the horizon. Yeah. So
I'm seeing that.
Figure that out.
I'm seeing that exact thing now. And we're really struggling to find certain sectors. Engineers are so hard to hire right now. Most of the big engineering firms are going into colleges and they're offering sophomores in college some contracts and things. So we have had to reclassify a lot of our jobs because we couldn't be as specific with our hiring and things. And you kind of change some of the job descriptions, and then it opens it kind of up to so many more people that we're getting to apply and look at. Whereas beforehand, we would have said, you don't have this specific degree, but they're just as qualified. They're doing a great job. And so we're kind of, again, like you said, looking for the tools and the talents, not as much the specific degree in this, and we're only going to hire from this pool.
Yeah, when you're talking about engineers, what type of engineers are you speaking of?
All of them. We can't
Really?
electrical, mechanical. We're just struggling to in the Midwest. In municipal everything. We're struggling to find them.
Wow. Okay. Because when you were saying that, I was thinking civil.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, but
civil engineering,
that's
everything.
yeah. There's lots of engineers, specialties that they have. So I was just
Right.
curious. All right, let's talk about your book. What's the title, and tell me why you wrote it.
Sure. The title is "I Quit: Winning the War for Top Talent," and I wrote it because I went through a massive just burnout of trying to run after the American dream and, running businesses and running for office and 5 kids and, being a good dad and father. And I tell the story that, when I was running for statewide office at 5 a.m. in the shower was like the only time of my day that was quiet. I wasn't bombarding it with my brain with data and requests and everything. And in the word "simplify your life" would literally just run across the temple of my forehead from the left to the right and repeat it. And it was my brain was finally quiet enough for me to hear what it was telling me. And it was saying, you can't keep doing this. You got to simplify things. And so I kind of did after I lost my statewide election. That's why I'm so happy for all the people that didn't vote for me, is because it gave me that ability to just step back and go, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I pushing myself to these rigors? And the only people that are missing out is my health, my wife, and my kids. And so I kind of did a pause. It's like a significant emotional event. Something big happens in your life. You go to the doctor and he's like, lose weight, quit smoking, you exercise, and you ignore him for 8 years until you have a mild heart attack. And then you're like, oh, wow, I better lose weight, quit smoking, and exercise. So those significant emotional events is what gets us out of our ruts. And I kind of went through that at that point. And then when the pandemic hit, I started seeing people all around me kind of go through the same thing I'd went through years before. And I started looking into the data. My wife became a mental health counselor, and she started teaching me about trauma and what happens to the brain when you have trauma. And actually, 2 weeks ago, the American Psychological Association came out with a report on Fox News, and they said all of their data shows that the U.S. adult, the AKA the working adults, they all went through a thing called collective trauma from the pandemic. And trauma changes the way your brain operates. It changes the neural pathways. And then that some people will get PTSD. Imagine if you lost a family member, you couldn't go to their funeral, you couldn't say goodbye to them, plus you lost your job and you were afraid if your kids were going to get sick. There was a lot that happened in that period of time, plus all the fear and anxiety. And so I think we're starting to see some of the residual effects of PTSD in the workforce. That's what gave us the Great Resignation. People had a significant emotional event and said, I'm up, I quit, I'm done. You had 4.3 million people quit their job in 1 month in August of 2021. So it was like that reevaluation of people's lives I saw happening, and that fascinated me. It's like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to play out? What do these people want? And then you started looking at the data on the younger generations and what they're needing out of their workforce compared to the CEOs that have been in the workforce for a long time and risen to the C-suite, to find out they are completely untrained for this new workforce because all this stuff has just happened. So that's why I wrote it. And it's a deep dive into the psychology of the modern worker. And it gives tools and solutions for managers and leaders to how to, successfully navigate this new labor paradigm.
Well, sounds like listeners need to buy it. To me,
I agree. Yes. So it's available on Amazon, print, ebook, audiobook through Audible and stuff, and or you could also go to my website, which is scottrupp.com. But yeah, just love for you to just, if you read it, leave a review or just email me on my website. Tell me your story, because I'm hearing so many interesting stories that are coming out of these significant emotional events, and how people have reevaluated their lives and reconnecting with their kids and their relationships with their spouses getting better. And it's wonderful to see people really starting to live a life of significance. And it's awesome.
Yeah. It was, they could call it the Great Reset, because people that didn't cook anymore had to start cooking. And, people that weren't spending time with their kids had to start spending time with their kids because they were there. Yeah. That's the positive that came out. Yeah.
It is. And I believe that the home made a resurging dominance in our society, whereas pre-pandemic work and career was kind of the dominating factor. But the home and the time, I mean, the year after the pandemic, I think there was 800,000 new swimming pools added across the country, which was a 533% increase from the year before.
Wow.
And if that's a huge investment in your home, which is quality time with the kids, and you show me where you spend your money, and I will show you what you value. And we're starting to see the people that's where they're spending their money. It's on those times and experiences, and you're seeing more less purchases of goods, more purchases of services in like times and trips and making memories, and less on the consumerism that was really dominant pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, I think you already told us this, but say it one more time. How can listeners find you if they want to learn more?
Well, go to my website, which is www.scotrupp.com, which is RUPP is my last name. And, there's information about I do a weekly newsletter, sometimes twice a week, just things that catch my eye, I find is interesting that's kind of going on all along these topics. And see if you like my style. It's kind of entertaining, enlightening with a little bit of snarkiness and some pop culture. So I have a unique style. I hate reading boring stuff, and I hate writing boring stuff. So I try to make it as entertaining there. So yeah, check out the website. Plus, I'm on all the socials: LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, under Scott Rupp. You can find it all on my website. And then the book again is on Amazon.com. And it's called "I Quit: Winning the War for Top Talent."
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Scott, it has been my pleasure to speak with you this morning.
Well, I have greatly enjoyed our time, and you have been a wonderful host, and you are so adept in your knowledge of what's going on. It sounds like you definitely have your finger on the pulse of the nation right now.
Oh, well, thank you. As a recruiter, I had to know what was going on.
That's true.
It's a habit that I don't want to break. So, well, thank you so much. I enjoyed our time together immensely as well. And I know the listeners will too, because we share some really great stuff with them.
Excellent.
All right.
Blessings to you and your family, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too, with your 20 plus people you're going to have. That's amazing.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Ashley, I'll send those blessings right back to you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
All right. You too. That was a great podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Your support's important to us. Are you recently laid off? Are you feeling lost in a job search? Do you need help getting your career back on track? Our specialized career programs can help you. Our expert can help you get noticed with our Resume RX and innovative job search program. Or you might want to try our Interview Excellence program and Offer Negotiation Bootcamp. You can learn more about our career program menu on our website at www.insiderscareerclub.com. And while you're there, you can also schedule a free assessment call. Don't delay. Take control of your career today. Now, let's speak a blessing over you. Your future is bright. Believe that your success is on its way to you. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, take care.